Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to install aFe Power's large bore 3-inch HD turbo back exhaust system on this 2016 Chevy Colorado with a 2.8 liter turbo diesel engine. Now it is required for this system that you get a custom tune for your truck. We've already gone ahead and done that on ours, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're underneath the truck now with the truck on our lift, and what we need to do is remove the rear portion of our exhaust. Now to do that, we're going to disconnect all of our connectors. Our first one is going to be our fuel line. Now to do that, we're going to cut the power on it. We're going to take our connector here and we're going to lift up on the red tab that's on the opposite side. And once we have that all the way up, we can push in on it and pull it out. Now that should cut power to our line, so then we can remove this from our exhaust. Now we're going to use a 22mm wrench to remove our nut. And now any of these connectors that are actually going to stay on the truck, you're going to want to make sure that you heat shrink them and wrap them up real good so that they don't get any dirt or debris in there. So now if we go down our exhaust, we're to the driver's side of where our last connector was. We're right above our drive shaft, and there's going to be another connector here. When you get there, you just have to push your white tab all the way out, push down on it, and you can pull it out. Again, you want to make sure you seal this one up as well. Then from there, we're just going to go ahead, use a panel popper tool to pop out this connector from the frame and just let it hang down. Now as we keep going down our exhaust, on our passenger side frame, we can see that there's another connector. It's going to be right above the bolt that's going through our leaf spring. Again, we're going to use a small screwdriver to push out the white tab. Once you have that pushed out all the way, you need to push down on it and pull the connector out. Then we're going to use our panel popping tool to remove this connector from our frame. Now if we follow these lines up to our next connector right here, this one needs to get pulled off. We're going to push that red tab forward, pull it out, and then we're going to remove this 10mm nut here and let these hang. There we go, just like that. Now if we keep following our passenger side frame, we'll see our next connector. That's going to be this here. What we're going to do is, again, push that red tab out, pull the connector out. Just like that. And then we can use our 10mm to actually pull this whole piece off. And then we can use our panel popper to get it off the frame. Should be one there, and there's one on top up here. And then again, we're just going to let this hang down. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and spray all of our hangers down with some silicone, and we're going to spray the nuts at the front with some penetrating oil. Now that we have everything disconnected from our rear section of the exhaust, we're going to go ahead and remove the 3 15mm nuts that are holding that to our middle section. So now we can separate our two pieces, and then we can go ahead and start pulling our rear section off of our hangers and then remove it from the vehicle. Next, we're going to use a pry bar and we're going to push on our isolators to get them off of the welded brackets that are on our frame. It's a good idea to have another person maybe in the back to hold up the exhaust for you. This is quite a long piece. You just want to gently pry on it on both sides. You don't want to ruin this isolator because we want to reuse these. Now we're on our middle set of hangers. You can see there's one on each side. And again, we're just going to use our pry tool and just kind of push that off. Now we're at our last hanger. Now before you take this off, you want to have a good way to get this out. So we're going to go forward. This whole piece is actually going to go forward and out. Again, for this part, you're definitely going to need 2 people. And you just want to rotate it and then just remove it. The next thing we need to do is take out our cross member that's underneath our transmission. To do that, we're going to remove the 4 18mm bolts, 2 on our passenger side and 2 on our driver's side. There's also going to be 2 bolts underneath here in this opening that we need to remove as well. So we're going to start off with these 2. Again, 18mm. And then the last 2 are these 2 15mm nuts. And then you can pull the cross member and just set it aside. Now we're going to move to the middle section of our exhaust, and we're going to follow our first wire all the way down to this plug here on our frame, and we're going to remove that. Again, we're going to pull out our white tab, push down on it, and then pull that plug out. And then we're going to take our panel tool and remove it from the frame. Right there, and right there. And we're just going to let that hang. Now we're going to move to our next harness, and we're going to follow that down our frame, and it's going to lead us to this box right here. Now, we're not going to disconnect it here. We're going to disconnect it at the white plug. We're going to push this piece back. This is going to have a red tab. Pull that out. And when you pull that out, you can push in and pull that out. And then we're going to use a 10mm to remove this from the frame. It's going to be 2 bolts holding that in, 1 at the bottom and then 1 at the top. Just like that, and then we're also going to remove the clip that's holding it to the frame right here. And we're gonna move that one just so that we can pull it out, and then we can go ahead and push that plug back in. So now if we follow our exhaust to the front of our truck, we can see our next connector, which is right here. This is our DEF injector. Again, we're gonna have a red tab at the top. You're just gonna push that up, and then you can push in on it, and you should be able to pull that out. And then there is gonna be two 10mm nuts that are actually holding on the injector. We can take those off, and then we can pull it off completely. So now that we have everything disconnected from our middle section, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing like we did on the rear. We're going to spray all of these bolts with penetrating oil, and we're going to spray our hangers with some lubricant. Next, we're going to remove the three 15mm nuts that are holding on our middle section of our exhaust, and then we're also going to remove the two 15mm nuts holding down our downpipe bracket. Then we're also going to remove the two 13mm nuts right here. So we can remove this bracket. Next, we can use our pry bar to pull the exhaust off the hanger. Just like that. And then we can pull it from the vehicle. Now we can put our cross member back in place. We're just going to reinstall it using our factory bolts. And then we can go ahead and tighten down these 6 bolts. So we're going to use a 15mm on our inside bolts. And our outside bolts are going to be an 18mm. Okay, now we're in our passenger side wheel well, and we have our inner fender well pulled out, we have our tire pulled off, and the reason is because we have to get to our downpipe and remove the sensors coming off of it and then remove it from the vehicle. The first one is going to be right here on our frame. It's going to be covered up, so what we're going to do is slide our protective heat shield down, and then there's going to be a white tab. From there we can use a screwdriver, push that tab forward, and then we can pull it out. After we do that, we can use a panel tool and then remove that from the frame. So right there, and also right there. And we're just going to push that one out of the way. The next plug that we need to undo is mounted to our transmission right here next to our downpipe. It's going to have that same white clip. We just have to push it down. So once you get that white tab pushed down, you can push on it and pull it out. And again, we also are going to disconnect this plug from where it's mounted on the transmission. Then our last piece that we need to remove off the transmission is right here. And just like that, and just push it to the side. Next, we're going to remove the sensor at the top of our downpipe, and that's going to make it easier for us to get this down later. And it's going to be a 22 millimeter. Once you break it loose, it should unthread pretty easy. We'll just pull off that and set it to the side for right now. Next, we're going to remove the sensor at the back of the downpipe. We unplugged it just a little bit ago, and we're going to use an 18 millimeter to take that sensor out, because it's probably going to make life easier on us when we go to take the downpipe out. So as soon as you break it loose, again, it should be pretty easy to spin. You can probably spin it by hand. And then we're just going to pull that out and set it aside. Next, we're going to take our heat shield off of our downpipe. Now this is going to be 4 10 millimeter bolts. Now you can see one of them here. There's also going to be one at the top, another one to the right of the downpipe, and then there's also one that's going to be underneath, hidden by the frame. We're going to use a flex head ratcheting wrench to remove those. Now once you break them loose, they're pretty easy to take out. You just have to thread them off by hand. Once you get the last one out, you can see it's all loose. And then you can wiggle this thing out of here. Now this last piece of our exhaust is going to have 4 bolts. There's going to be 2 right here that you can kind of see, and then there's going to be 2 on the back. Now we're going to go ahead and spray those with some penetrating oil to help break those loose, and then we can take out this whole piece. It's going to have to come up through the top of the engine. So next we're going to use a 13 millimeter to take off the 4 nuts that are holding on our last piece of our exhaust. So again, once you break those loose, they actually come off pretty easily. The difficult part is getting to the two on the back side. But we're going to take all 4 of them off, and then like I said, this whole piece is going to have to come out through the engine bay. Okay, so now we're inside the engine, and to remove our downpipe, to get it actually out, we're going to have to take off our coolant reservoir and just kind of lay it over the top of our engine just to give us some more room. Now to do that, that's going to be 2 10mm nuts, one on our passenger side on the sidewall here, and then the other one is going to be right here on the front. We're just going to use a ratcheting wrench to loosen those up. We're just going to kind of set that there for right now. Okay guys, so you can see the downpipe right there. It's going to be a little bit hard to see it when I go in there and try to grab it, but you're probably going to have to wrestle with it a little bit, but you should be able to get it out. Now we can install our new downpipe onto our turbo. And we're going to reuse the gasket off our original pipe. And we went ahead and put some anti-seize on our studs. Now we can reinstall our factory nuts. There should be 4 altogether, 2 on this front side, and then there's going to be 2 on the opposite side. Now we're going to use a 13mm to tighten down our downpipe. So to get our downpipe out, we actually had to take out our PCM too. So we're just going to put that in the same way we took it off, which would be we just unplugged our sensors and then it just kind of pulls off of the back firewall. Just push that back in, plug everything back. You don't have to worry about which plug goes where. They're 3 different sizes, so they'll only fit one way. Make sure they're pushed all the way in, and then you're going to flip the lever back and push down on the locking tab. Now we can put our reservoir back on, same way we took it off. And reinstall our 10mm nuts. We'll go ahead and tighten those down. Now we're at the bottom of our downpipe, and you can see that there's a welded tab that's hanging off that's going to fit onto our factory studs, and then we're going to reinstall our 2 nuts, and we're going to go ahead and tighten those down. That's going to be a 13 millimeter. Next, we're going to take our front pipe and we're going to install it onto our down pipe. Now, before we do that, we want to make sure we put a band clamp on the front, and we're also going to use our factory isolator and put that on our hanger. So once we have that, we're going to slide the whole thing forward, push it all the way onto our pipe, spin it to line up our isolators, and then we're going to push it onto the factory hangers on the truck. We're going to leave it loose for right now. Next, we're going to install another band clamp onto our front pipe, and with our isolator already on our mid pipe, we're going to go ahead and push that on, rotate it up to our factory hanger, and push it on. And again, we're just going to leave this loose for right now. Next, we're going to install another band clamp, and then our muffler. Make sure you have your logo faced whichever way you want it to face. And then we're going to get a jack to hold this in place for us because we don't want this to accidentally fall off. And we're going to leave our band clamp loose for right now. Next, we're going to install another band clamp over the other side of our muffler. Then we're going to install our tailpipe. Push that all the way in. And then we're going to go ahead and install it onto our factory hangers. This is the back of our tailpipe. We're just going to push that one on, and then we can install our exhaust tip. Now we are at our downpipe and front pipe connector, and we're going to go ahead and go through and tighten up all of our band clamps. It's going to be a 16 millimeter. So as we're tightening these down, we want to make sure that we grab the pipe that's in the back and we push it all the way forward to make sure nothing loosened up on us. And then again, 16 millimeter, tighten down the band clamp. Next, we're going to install our tip. That's just going to go right over the end, and then we can go ahead and tighten that down with a 16 millimeter as well. Okay guys, now after about 50 to 100 miles, you're going to want to go back underneath and retighten all of your bolts. But that's going to complete the installation. If you have any questions, give us a call or visit us online.